Before we get started here, I need to lay down a level of base sufficient enough to prime the audience, let's say. If you were to ask your average person, would you trust the American government? No. Would you trust the Soviet government? Definitely no. Would you trust the Third Reich? Hell no. Would you trust any of them during wartime? Are you crazy? Notice anything? Anyway, moving on. Now, before I go any further, a random note of appreciation. In the wake of what appears to be compounding volumes of excessive stupidity, to all the people in my life who are not thick as porridge, sincerely cheers and God bless you all. A special thanks especially to my pal Kryptos, who was rather helpful with the following. That being said, this video will not feature any proposals, solutions, or answers. This is strictly thoughts and observations. Now, the previous video I ended by asking, the foundation of humanity is what? The answer? Simple. Force, either literally or through necessity. Damn near everything we do is based on some element of force. If you're hungry, you're forced to get food. Thirsty, seek water. Bored, find entertainment. If you wish to procreate, resources and deal with the opposite sex. I mean, you could always go full caveman and bonk them across the bonds, I suppose, but still, the bonk requires force. Law and order is ultimately decided through the use of force, so on and so forth. Nothing is ever handed to you. Well, unless you're a vegetable, in which case you've got bigger problems, but anyway, you get the picture. But let's say we take any random individual and we put them in a state of nature. Now, aside from battling the elements, they would be in a state of great liberation, where they are free to wear no clothes, say what they wish, and behave with borderline impunity. Now, I'm of the belief that if you wish to enter civilization, you forego some of these liberties and behave in accordance with the customs of said civilization. Take any random qualities, attire, mannerisms, language, speech. I would imagine most people would agree it would behoove your society if the men were well-dressed, groomed, prim and proper, and spoke the same language with the style that I do, and behave accordingly with an appropriate appreciation for propriety. However, that none of this should be compelled by the state. None of this should come at the expense of your personal autonomy. As such, there would need to be some kind of animating spirit or body of authority that convinces the citizenry that these qualities hold value and bestows upon them an element of class and dignity. It would elevate your society and or maintain a certain set of standards. If you do not wish them compelled, then a certain level of conformity is most certainly necessary. Failing to adhere to them and what form of penalties they should take, I will leave that up to you to consider. I trust no one would find this assessment particularly contentious. Now, in a previous video, I pitched a hypothetical scenario featuring a member of a group belonging to a certain homogeneous territory and someone not of that group approaching them and saying, "Give me access to your land, your people, your capital, and your markets, or else I will call you insert label X." Now, the first question to ask is, what is the function of that label X and why is it being used as a threat? Well, this demand is a form of coercion. Give me what I want or else you will face recourse. The appropriate response to the scenario should be, says you and what fucking army? Hard power, a threat of force. Anything less is an act of submission and therefore a defeat. Like I said before, functionally speaking, what is the difference between segregation and nation-state borders if not scale? Nothing. It's the same thing, prohibiting entry into a given territory through the use of force. One uses arbitrary legal distinctions, the other one race. I see no compelling reason why the former is any more moral than the latter. Given that the state holds a monopoly on violence and its primary purpose is defense, I see no reason why the preservation of an ethnic group is not a viable use of said violence. Anyone sane in the Western world understands the sanctity of private property, where you are limitless and at liberty to discriminate on any grounds as you see fit. Now, the question that I have is, at what stage, scaling this past the individual level, does this become untenable, beyond the pale? The state justifies intervening and violates my capacity to discriminate through the imposition of so-called rights and dictates to me its fucking morality. Because ultimately, that's all rights are. A violation of personal sovereignty and state-forced imposition of values. You may not discriminate on the basis of race, sex, ethnicity, religion, or sexual orientation. Says who and who the fuck are you? No, I will discriminate in any manner I damn well please and you can piss off. Now, the reason for this rather lengthy intro is to leave us with our core argument in the case against meritocracy. Well, first off, who gets to decide if the job is even necessary, let alone what qualifies as merit, but anyway, I digress. How can anyone possibly be against the proposition the best person for the job? It's simple. After all the previous variables have been exhausted, or artificially prohibited rather, what's left? Profit and nothing else. the best person for the job simply becomes faceless recruitment, based on nothing more than experience, paperwork, or stats, all in the name of production. It says that the political and economic exigencies of the state supersede those of your family and community. Thank you, cryptos, for that gem of a line. How the state came to enforce materialism 101. And consumers have the same mentality, by the way, because their only interaction is with the final product. They don't care about the headaches of production because they don't see it. Westerners seem to have a very tough time understanding this, but meritocracy needs to be a variable within the framework and not simply be the framework. If production is the apex of your hierarchy in this regard, you're looking at the entire world's population as a pool from which to funnel in so-called talent. You know what you get if you adopt this kind of mindset? Globalism, the destruction of your nation state, all in the name of GDP. And given the present state of the Western world, I must thus declare my firm opposition to meritocracy in its current form and say, nah, it's a complete pile of bollocks. So I will try and steelman this argument using the most appropriate arena possible and show why even there this metric doesn't work, because this single variable is far too low resolution. Sports, and as I mentioned previously, I'm going to be using rugby because it is the best sport and it's the one that I'm most familiar with. Oh, and also this is a rare occasion I get to mix politics and sports in a manner that doesn't really piss me the hell off. Now, rugby, like any other team sport, has its standout stars, don't get me wrong. They have their boasting stats, sure, but very little of them can be used in isolation. Anyone who's ever watched team sports knows that you can have statistically the best team on paper, but that is in no way a guarantee that you will have the best performing team in practice. You have far too many dynamic variables at play. You can look at a winger, for example, that has breakneck pace, his try scoring tally sky high. And for you Yanks, a try is like a touchdown, by the way. But then you look closer. Who's he playing next to? Who's he getting the ball from the most? Because if it's from some line-breaking center, well then he's merely the end recipient of a chain of play. He'd be a finisher, not the playmaker. Or you could take a scrum half who is outstanding at playing quick front-foot ball from the ruck. Well, that's all well and good, but your forward pack space and power is responsible for delivering the chance to play that quick front-foot ball. You can have the quickest hands in rugby all you want, but if your pack is subpar, well, your best asset is largely hamstrung. So it's not just about what you, the individual, can do. It is about what those around you enable you to do. This is only one example of an individual skill set being able to shine based on the staff around them. What about the environment? There was a New Zealand player, iconic All Black Marn Nonu, used to play for New Zealand's provincial teams, the Blues and the Hurricanes. I think he used to play for the Highlanders as well, come to think of it. It's been a few years, but anyway. Now, Nonu was not exactly the cleanest player around. Had a tendency of leading with the shoulder, no arms in the tackle, which you are not allowed to do. However, despite this, for whatever reason, his discipline markedly improved once he was in an All Black jersey, which explains why he was able to rack up over 100 appearances for the All Blacks, because next to centre partner Conrad Smith, he was a machine. Ask any serious rugby fan to name their top 15. He will undoubtedly be a top 3 selection choice at centre. Same with our legendary Springbok winger, Brian de Banner. Play for the Bulls, one of our provincial teams. Lethal finisher. Look at him here. Straight from the kickoff. Bam! Sets off. Oh, good night. Kick chase, own ball, there we go, and try. Outstanding. But he was nowhere near as impressive when he played for the Stormers, because that style of play did not suit his game. The Springboks, however, did play to suit him, which is why he was able to earn over 100 caps playing for South Africa, primarily because he was playing alongside a fellow Bulls player and the greatest scrum half to ever live, the General himself, the great Fourie du Preez. The point I'm trying to make here is this. Even in a heavy stat-driven environment like sports, it's still contingent on the cohesive performance of the many parts that make up the unit. There's a myriad of variables involved here, and this example only involves 22 people picking a bloody rugby team. Imagine scaling this to a damn nation state, trying to advance economic mobility and hold together a national identity in a world that increasingly sucks at doing either. I don't have the answers, but at least I can notice the damn facade. Cheers for watching once again, I apologize for nothing.